Welcome to the House Therapy, the podcast that helps you to create a home that you love to live in. I'm Nina Dwaron, owner and lead designer at ISO Design and Interiors. And each week, we're going to explore practical ways to help bring more beauty, function, and flow into your space. From design and staging to organizing, downsizing, and everything in between. If you want a home that truly supports your life and your family, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back to the House Therapy Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today because today we're going to do an impromptu FAQ session all about home staging, all right? So home staging causes a lot of confusion for people because they're not sure what the difference is between what home staging is, what interior design and decorating is. And often people mistaken the three to be exactly the same. And I'm here to share some commonly asked questions about home staging. And hopefully I will be able to answer most of the questions that you yourself are thinking about and have been wanting to learn more about. And, you know, in this episode, it's something that I want to make sure that I offer you some clarification, some clarity if you're still wondering what the difference between home staging is versus what interior design is. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first question, although it does appear to be simple, but it is commonly asked, is what is home staging and how is it different from interior decorating and design? Well, I guess the simplest way for me to explain it is that interior decorating and design is for you, right? If you are looking for a refresh for your home, want an updated look for your home, then as designers, what we do is we try to help you bring your vision to life. So we incorporate your likes and your dislikes, all the while we're guiding you so that, you know, you are making the right decisions for your home and for your family. So we incorporate essentially your taste, you know, what you desire the most for your home, the types of functionality that you want for your home, and the overall look and feel that you want to be able to achieve when you walk through the door. That's going to make you and your family happy, and that's going to wow your guests when they come through the door. So essentially that's what interior design and decorating is. It's the target is you, and we're there to help you bring that vision to life and make you happy. Now, home staging, on the other hand, is completely different. It is about the buyer. Now, even though you yourself may be paying for the home staging services, but the target audience that we are after would be the buyer. Why? Because we want to impress the buyers so that they will then make the decision to put in an offer and to want to buy the home that you are selling. So that, I would say, is the key difference, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more once we get into the other questions as well, is how is it different? But for this first question, I really want to nail that part down, that, you know, the target audience is completely for the two different types of services, okay? And so just keep in mind, you know, think about when you see a commercial, right? For anything, a car, cosmetics, household items, even food. It is all targeted at you, the buyer. And a home is no different, right? So when it comes to home staging really is about marketing to the target buyer, which is the potential buyer, okay? So that's when people make the biggest mistake, is that they tailor the staging to their own personal taste as opposed to who the target buyer might be. All right, so I hope that answers that first question. So let's get into the second question. Now, what do home stagers actually do? Well, home stagers are essentially designers. We do have a design background. Now, most home stagers do provide both interior design as well as home staging services. Now, when it comes to home staging, however, as I mentioned earlier, because the target buyer is the potential buyers or visitors who are coming through your door, therefore, our job as stagers is to appeal to those buyers. So everything that we do in your home to get it ready for the market is about how are we going to make this look, feel, and flow when buyers come through. So our job is to go in and, give you the necessary advice, first of all, to get your home ready for the listing. And then should you need additional services after the consultation, what we do is we come in and we decorate it to make the home as attractive and appealing as possible to any visitor who's going to come through the door. What we might do is we might remove some furniture or recommend that you remove furniture, or we can reposition furniture so that it makes more sense for when buyers come in, because our job, more than just designers, we're also marketers, all right? So we look at it through the lens of the buyers and we ask ourselves, how will buyers walk through this house? What should they be looking at? We want to guide their eyes to key areas of the home, key features, focal points, so that it would make the home more memorable to them, so that it's going to stand out in their mind. And, and if it stands out in their mind and it stands out from competitive listing, and let's be honest, they're not going to visit just one house, all right? They are going to be visiting many, many houses, and it's our jobs as home stagers is to make your home stand out from the crowd and competitive listings. So that's what we do. Essentially, our services are very encompassing, meaning we can provide you with as much or as little support as you need. But if you are looking for your home to be show ready and market ready, then that is what we can help you with. All right. I hope that answers that question. Now, question number 2 is a really great one. And I would say that this is the most important question and the question that most people will want to know before they make the decision whether staging is right for them. And that is, does home staging really work? Well, if you're going to ask me that question, then my obvious answer would be that yes, it does work. And I'm not saying that to be facetious. I am saying that because there is data that backs that up. Because if you do your own research, there are data out there that will say that when staging is done well, it can deliver, anywhere between 2 to 6% more in pricing and in sale price, that is. And it will bring in more buyers and more eyeballs to your online listing as well. But when people ask this question, they are looking essentially for the return on their staging investment, right? And one of the episodes that I did previously was all about the ROI of staging. So I recommend that you go back to that episode and listen to that, because it goes into the ROI in quite a lengthy detail. So what I'll do is I'll put the link to that episode in the show notes so that you can go back and watch that episode in greater detail. But having said that, I just want to help answer that question right now. The ROI of staging comes in 2 forms, all right? First, obviously, it's a price. Everybody wants a higher price. Regardless of whether people plan to stage or not, everyone's primary goal when it comes to selling their house is to sell for top dollar and at the highest price possible, right? And although that is the goal, and when you're working with the agent, that is their goal too. Listen, we are all a team, stagers, realtors, and the sellers. We are all a team, and we are all there to support you to help you achieve your goal. Now, in a seller's market, it is very easy to achieve top dollar, especially when staging is done well. And that goes without question. Like if you look back to 2021, 2022, when the market was really, really hot, sort of during the pandemic years, people were selling at hundreds of thousands of dollars above asking. But that is not the current reality right now. Today, we are in a buyer's market, and sometimes the ROI may not be priced at all. Not everybody wants to sell in a buyer's market, and when they do, it's because they have to for a number of different reasons, whether they're moving for work, moving to be closer to family, or whatever that reason might be. People who sell in a buyer's market needs to sell, and therefore the ROI of staging becomes timing. So speed can be a significant ROI during a buyer's market such as the one we are in right now. So does staging help? For sure, because not only will it bring additional eyeballs onto your listing and bring in more buyers, it can help you sell more quickly if that is important to you, right? So don't look at ROI as in price alone. It can be about speed as well. And if speed is important to you and staging can help you achieve that at 98% of asking, that's a win. All right. In today's market, that is a win. So in short, the question is if does staging work? Then yes, it will. All right, so let's go to question number 3 is, this is another really good one. And this is a very common one, not just with home staging, but really everything. And the question, how much does staging cost? And, I get this question like all the time. I get calls on a regular basis because people find me on the web, they Google me, and when they make the call, when they call me, rather before they even say hello, share their names with me, they will ask, the first question that comes out is, how much does your staging services cost? And it's very, although it's a common question, it's a difficult question to answer because every home is different and staging is all customized. Here's the thing, what I can share right out is the staging consultation. Our staging consultation fee is $350 plus tax. Now that is a start. If we have to go further, if the property is very large, then it will take us longer to do, then the cost will go up. But generally it's around $350. Now that is not an industry standard fee. Some people charge more, some people charge less, depending on where you are. But I would say that the average today is between $300 to $350. Now there are people who do charge like $700 or $800 for the consultation. And then there will be people who will tell you that they offer free consultation. All right. Now, let's be honest. All right. As consumers, that nothing is free in life. Okay. There is always a cost for everything. And when people offer free consultation, just be cautious about that, because in my experience, what happens is that they don't really provide you with a detailed consult, meaning not provide you with everything that you need to know. They're going to hold things back because they want the full staging project. and then they'll build that cost into the staging project. So don't be fooled when you are marketed with free consultations, okay? Now, we, on the other hand, do charge for the consultation, but we're very thorough. We provide room by room assessment, room by room advice. And the objective is, once we complete the consultation, and if you feel comfortable to do the rest on your own, then you are well equipped and well prepared to do just that on your own. All right. And that's our objective, which is why there's great value in the consultation that we do provide. Now, when it comes to the rest of the staging, let's say, it's all custom to every single project. Now, what we can do is we can provide you with an estimate with a range, but it's not going to be accurate until we see the property. Because listen, not all 4-bedroom houses are the same, right? A 4-bedroom house can be 1,800 square feet. A 4-bedroom house can be 3,500 square feet, right? There are different wall sizes, different ceiling heights. Some rooms might require more artwork than others. Some room might require more furniture than others because the room sizes are much larger. So it's very difficult for us to say all 4-bedroom houses will be X amount, because that's not realistic. Every house will be different and will require different amounts of inventory. And an occupied home will require a lot less furniture than a vacant home. In fact, an occupied home may not require any furniture at all, whereas a vacant property will require all furniture. So there's no way for us to give a static flat rate for the actual staging services at all. And so the best way to do that is to provide the stager that you choose to work with as much details as possible. And often we will request to go and see the property in person to take measurements so that we know exactly what to bring in. A condo will require a smaller couch than a normal size house, right? So the quote a more accurate quote will be shared with you once we have all of the detailed information. All right. But, on our website, not all staging companies do this, but on our website, we do have a fees page that you can visit at ISO Design /fees, and you'll see the range. All right. It's not the exact quote, but I want to make sure I give you at least an estimated range so that you know what to expect before we even have a discussion. All right. I hope that information helped. So number 4. So is home staging worth the money? I think that I've answered that earlier. Absolutely, because let's say that your home staging investment is $5,000. And if your home sells quickly and allowing you to move to your next chapter more quickly, then there's that value, that the return on your staging investment allowing you to move to your next chapter more quickly. In additionally, let's say you have an investment property that is sitting there vacant, right? And every month is costing you anywhere between, let's just, for funsies, say anywhere on a monthly basis, your monthly carrying cost for a vacant property can be anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000. So let's say it takes you 3 months. Let's just say 3 months. If it takes you 3 months to sell, then your carrying cost, if it's $3,000, it'll be $9,000 that it's costing you to keep the lights on and the heat on and stuff like that. And if your staging cost is $5,000 and you sell more quickly, let's say within 30 days, then that will only cost you $5,000 versus $9,000, right? So yes, home staging is very much worth it in that instance. Now, during the buyer's market, which we relished in a few years ago. A staging investment of $5,000 brought in $100,000, $200,000, $400,000 above asking. So, without any doubt at all, during the seller's market, staging is very, very much worth it. But again, don't discount the importance of speed as well, because that in itself is an amazing return on investment, not only in time and speed, but in money as well, especially if you are trying to sell an investment or a vacant property. All right. Now, question number 5. What rooms should be staged first? This is a great question. So when you are working with a limited budget, let's say, there are certain key rooms that you should definitely focus on. If your budget allows, I highly recommend that you stage every room in the house, because again, the whole point is to impress buyers at every step of the way during their visit, right? Every room they walk into, we want to be able to wow them and get them to stay and linger, remove any doubts, any questions, and that will help them to make the decision more comfortably and without reservation that this is the house for them. But let's say that you are working with a more limited budget. Having said that, then I would say you need to stage the main floor or the key living areas, like the dining room, the living room, the kitchen, and even the powder room. Because again, this is the first impression that people will see. And with so many open concept homes now, people can see all of these rooms the minute they step into the foyer, right? So we want all of these principal living areas to be as attractive as possible to wow potential buyers. The other key room that I highly encourage that people do is the primary bedroom. And why do I say that? Well, it's because the primary bedroom is the sanctuary, the escape room for the buyers, right? Most often are parents. And after a long day of work and family time, helping kids to do homework, making dinner and whatnot, the primary bedroom is a space that they can go and seek some solitude, some peace, some quiet. And so we want to make this the primary bedroom as wow as possible. And we want potential buyers to say, wow, this is going to be my space. This is going to be a place that I'm going to be able to escape to and find some calm and some peace, right? Which is why we put a lot of attention and focus on the styling the primary bedroom. We make it look exceptionally luxurious, and a space that, that'll make them smile when they open the door to the primary bedroom. So this is a very important space. Now, don't forget, if the house has a primary ensuite, that is included. I would say that is included as part of the primary bedroom. So, the key areas would be the key living spaces and the primary suite, okay, is where you should focus the majority of your staging budget, all right? Number 6, this is also another great question. Can I stage the home by myself? And, to be completely frank and honest, of course you can. It's your home. Even though I always say that if you are selling your home and planning to sell your home, really you should put yourself in the mindset that this is no longer your home because you are already selling it. You're planning to sell it. So you are truly just the custodian of the property. You're looking after it for the next buyer. Okay. But having said that, it is still your home. So you can absolutely do whatever you want with it. You can absolutely style it and stage it on your own. Now, where I see the mistake often is that when people decide that they have the resources and the capacity to stage their own home, they are looking inwardly. They are looking at their own personal taste and their own personal style. Remember the first question we talked about? Staging and decorating is very different. Decorating in interior design is about you and your personal style and taste. Staging is about the buyer. So when sellers try to stage their own property, often they do make that pretty significant mistake because they're adding their own personal taste and style to the home, which then makes it so that they're not looking at it through the lens of the buyer. And that's a very big mistake. So if you have the, some design knowledge and you want to do this on your own, I would encourage you to at least get a staging consultation, at least get that professional advice so that it'll prepare you enough to look at it through the lens of the buyer, and then you can go ahead and stage on your own with the proper advice and direction. All right. Now, number 7 is such a great question. Should I stage my home when it's a seller's market? That is such a great question. During the pandemic years, and even before that, around 2016, 2017, the market was pretty hot then as well. And people would ask me, includes realtors and homeowners, they would ask me, you must be so quiet right now because homes are selling in a matter of days, so they don't really need staging. And again, that is such a huge mistake. Because if you were at all involved in that market during those seller periods, you would know that it was difficult to find stagers because we were all so busy. Now, why was that? Why would stagers or staging services be so busy during a seller's market where homes were selling nearly effortlessly? Well, the thing was that during the seller's market, staging helped to bring in extra money. So let's say your neighbor next door was able to sell effortlessly within days, and they got 20, 30, 40, let's say $50,000 above asking. When it came to professionally staged properties that showed really well, staging brought in $100,000 above asking, $200,000 above asking. I had a property that sold for $600 above asking. 600, did I say 600,000? Yes, 600,000 above asking. And it wasn't a mansion. It wasn't like a lakefront property by any means. This was just a bungalow, right? And it sold for $600,000 above asking. Now, you might say, oh, they listed it well below market value. Untrue. I was really surprised, and I was actually a little bit nervous. So this 3-bedroom bungalow with a finished basement, and so it did have a finished basement with 1 bedroom, if I recall correctly. And it was listed for $1.4 million. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty high listing price. And yet it sold for $600,000 above asking during a seller's market. And that was the power of staging. And that was why staging services were so hard to come by. And we were all so busy because everybody was trying to outdo one another and, surpassing the last listing or the last property that went on sale. Okay, so yes, as a question is, should you stage when the market is hot, and should you stage when it's a seller's market? Absolutely you should, because it's only going to gain you a lot more money, and the return on investment is significant during this time. So highly recommend that you do that. When we reach a seller's market again, which I am hopeful that it will one day. Number 8, should I stage a vacant home versus an empty property? That itself also is an amazing question. Now, some people try to steer away from staging vacant properties because they're concerned about the investment itself. And they're right. Staging a vacant property is going to cost more because we have to bring in everything. We have to bring in all the furniture, all the accents, all the accessories to make it look like a lived-in property, right? Whereas with an occupied property, we might only have to bring in a few small pieces of furniture, or we just focus on the artwork and the accessories and the accents, right? Whereas with a fully vacant property, we're bringing in everything. However, here's the difference, right? So imagine yourself walking into a vacant property, whether it's a dated one or a newly built one. It often feels empty. It feels cold, right? And people can't envision how they would place furniture. And that's the thing, like with new homes and new builds these days, sometimes the way they've designed the spaces, it makes it difficult to envision how you would put key pieces of furniture that will make sense. And that's where staging comes in. Staging not only adds warmth and depth to an empty space and make it feel less hollow and empty, it also helps to give buyers that the idea on how they too can live in the home and how they should place their own furniture. Because the reality today is that really only 10% of the population, the buyer population, can envision the potential of a home and the space within the home. All right. So what that means is that 90% has difficulty. And that's what staging does. Staging takes away that question mark in their head when they come through the house and they're wondering, how am I going to live in this space? It feels so small. Where am I going to put my bed? Will it fit a king size bed? Will it fit a dresser after I put in my king size bed, right? Especially when the house or the rooms are oddly shaped and, with windows are in different places and things like that. Staging a vacant property has that benefit of, making not only appealing, but removing any doubts and questions that buyers might have, okay? And staging a vacant property, especially a new build, gives buyers that wow factor that they're looking for because, hey, we are all watching HGTV these days, right? We have that certain expectation when we walk through a house that is going to be that magazine-worthy space, all right? And so if you do have a beautiful vacant new built home, staging it is going to give that magazine-worthy look for potential buyers. All right, next question. How long does home staging take? That is also another good question. Now, I've heard through the industry that some stagers can take, 2 days, 3 days to stage. Again, I'm not sure what that process looks like for them. I can't speak to other staging companies, but for us, it takes us 1 day, all right? So what we do is, after the consultation, we come in, we provide you with the necessary advice, the room by room assessment. We give you a list of tasks to complete before staging day. So that could take you a week to do, 2 weeks to do, 3 to 4 months if you are planning on some renovation. And then we schedule in staging day, all right? So on staging day is when we come in and you're ready. The house is clean. You've packed away some stuff. You've decluttered. You've done some touch up, paint and change out some lightings and whatnot. And then on staging day, we come in and we stage the home. We bring in everything that the house needs, whether it's a vacant property, an occupied property. We bring in everything that the house needs at that time. We stage the house in one day and we're done. All right. And then the photographer comes in, takes the photos, and then within, I would say 24 to 36 hours, the photos will be ready and your agent will list your property and it'll be on the market. So our process is very efficient and it's very quick. All right. We've been in this business for a long time. So, there's very few properties that would even stump us at this point. So because we're quick, we're efficient, that also helps to get your house on the market much more quickly as well. All right. Number 10. Now, what should I do before staging day or to prepare myself for staging day? That's a really good question. And that's where the consultation comes in, all right? So during the consultation, we're gonna walk through your house with you room by room, and we will look at everything. We look up and down, we look sideways, we look at baseboards, we look at windowsills, we look at light fixtures. And so the most important thing that you should do before staging day, and obviously we're talking about occupied homes right now, right? So for vacant properties, it's already vacant. There's nothing that you need to do except make sure that it's clean. But for occupied properties, declutter is the biggest task for homeowners like yourselves, okay? Listen, we all live and have furniture and accents that are near and dear to us and that makes us feel like home, that is comfortable. And often that means, from what my standpoint and what I see is that there's often always way too much stuff, all right? So decluttering is key here, right? And removing your personality so that buyers can see themselves and envision themselves living in the home. So I always ask sellers to remove at least 30% of the stuff that's in the home. And in some cases, even 50% because there's that much stuff in the house. Now, my clients often ask me, do I have to empty out the closets and kitchen cupboards and whatnot? I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. You are still living in the house. If you are selling an occupied home, buyers don't expect it to be completely empty. It's unreasonable because how would you live, right? So, but decluttering at least 30 to 50% is going to make a huge difference to the property because then it's going to show so much more space, right? So what I always say is, since you're already planning to move, pack up the stuff ahead of time. You're going to have to pack it up anyway, especially if you're selling within a certain season. Let's say if you're selling in the spring, then it's time to pack up all the winter gear. You're not going to need it again for at least 6 months, hopefully, with the Canadian weather. You're not going to need it for another 6 months. So just pack away all of your winter gear. And in the kitchen, let's be honest, okay? We don't use every kitchen tool every day, all right? Many of us have like seasonal kitchenware. Or things that we only use when we're entertaining. And during the selling period, you're not going to be entertaining that much anyway. So for that reason, pack all the things away, all the things that you don't use on a regular basis away. And honestly, do you really need 20 plates for a family of 4? No, you don't. Maximum 8. You have a dishwasher. Just keep washing it, right? So that will allow you to declutter the cupboards, the closets, the mudroom and things like that to show more space. Because here's the thing, in today's, not in the buyer's market, but today's buyers are forever looking for storage. If you have too much clutter in the house, and if, when buyers come through and they open the closet and open the cupboards and things fall out, what that gives buyers is that the impression that the house doesn't have enough storage, that things are, bursting at the seams, right? So decluttering the space, these key storage spaces will tell buyers that, hey, there's tons of storage. Look how much storage there is in the house, right? And the other thing that you need to do is remove all the family photos. Okay, there's a couple of schools of thoughts here. Some people say, leave the family photos, then people will see that, this is a family home, it's personalized. In my opinion, that doesn't work. Buyers don't want to see you in their home. They don't want to, when they walk into a house, they don't want to feel like they're, imposing on somebody else's home. So by removing your personal and family photos, what you're doing is you're saying, here's the blank slate. Imagine your own photos in this house. Imagine your life in this house, right? And that's what we want them to do. Now, the other thing as part of the prep is that you do need to fix what needs to be fixed. What that also means is touching up, paint. If the doors, the walls, the baseboard is looking a little, dated, or there's a lot of chips or marks on the walls, that will need to get touched up. If the faucets are leaking or the lights are broken and things like, or especially with dated lighting fixtures, just please switch that out. It is a bit of an investment. It's not huge. Lighting is very, very inexpensive these days. So, spend a little bit of money, do some of that prep work. And here's the thing, the more you do, the more better it is going to be for you to sell and get the price that you want and the timing that you want, all right? If you make it so that buyers have to come in and make a huge checklist of all the things that they need to do after they buy the home, they're going to move on to the next one that requires less work, okay? So buyers today want move-in ready, because everybody wants move-in ready. But more importantly, in today's market, home prices are really high. Often, especially with first-time buyers, they're buying the house, they have had to borrow money from parents and grandparents for the down payment. They're using all of their savings to buy their first home. They're not going to have a lot of money left over to do any significant upgrades to the house. So the more you can make it move-in ready, the more your house is going to be attractive and appealing to all potential buyers, not just first-time buyers, okay? So I hope that helped. Now, let's go through a few more questions here. How long should the staging stay in the home? That's another really great question. Okay, so the standard staging period is typically 30 days. However, with the market that we are in right now, some are offering 45 days just to help the listing out a little bit. And then after that, you have the option to renew, all right? So to renew the rentals, and renewing the rentals is a lot less than the first month, because the first month you're paying for not only the rentals, but you're paying for the moving costs, you're paying for the designers, the fees, the labor, etc., right? So, but with the second month, you're really only paying for the renewal of the rental of all the items that are in the home. So, does it make sense to continue with the renewal? I'm going to put this question back to you. What would you rather see? Let's say the home does require more than 30 days or more than 45 days to sell. Does it make sense for buyers to come in and still be wowed no matter when they come into the house, right? So, as long as the home is packaged well and shows well, it is always going to perform better than the ones that is not. Because you will see that once the staging is removed, the house does feel very, very empty. Now, you can go out and say, let's remove all the staging and I'm going to go and buy my own accents and accessories and stage it with my own, and I get to keep it, which makes a lot of sense if you want to keep all the staging products. Okay, so by all means, then go out and do that. But just recognize that when you go out and buy staging products, it's going to cost you a lot more, right? But if you're going to keep it, then that makes sense. But if you don't plan to keep any of the staging inventory, buying your own is going to cost you a lot more than the rental renewal, okay? But the question is, should the rental stay in the home until it sells? In my professional advice, I say yes, because you want the home to show well no matter when the buyers come in. But do we have to go in and remove staging if the house hasn't sold? Yes, that happens all the time, and it is because of budget. All right, but for me, that is a short-sighted hindsight, because again, the staging is a marketing, and it is packaging. And can you imagine selling a house that just doesn't look great because it doesn't have all of that wow factor, right? But ultimately, the decision is your own. All I can do is give you the advice that keeping the staging makes more sense from a marketing perspective. All right. Here's another great question. Do real estate agents pay for the staging? Well, my honest answer is yes, they do. More so these days than it was, I would say, 7, 8 years ago. Staging investment is an investment. We're still talking about like several $1,000s. So today, just to be competitive, a lot of agents are offering staging services and paying for the staging. And so that makes sense for you as a seller, and it's quite the benefit. But again, just remember, when they're paying for the staging, they're also charging you a higher commission accordingly to make up for that investment that they're making on your behalf, right? Because again, none of us will want to work for free, right? We're all in the business of making money, and so they're going to charge you a higher commission. And if you are okay with that, then it makes absolute sense, because then they will front the staging cost for you. Now, some will front the staging investment for you for the first rental period, whether it's 30 days or 40 days. And then you can choose to pay for the renewals if you so desire. Some agents will what's the word I'm looking for? Contribute. Some agents will contribute a portion. It could be $1,000 or $1,500 towards the staging. So they can cover 50%, you cover the other 50%. And then some agent will say they will reimburse you the full amount at closing. So depending on where your finances are and what your situation is, you have all of these different options to choose from, right? Or some agent will charge you a very low commission, but then if you want staging done, you are paying for that completely out of your pocket. But then again, you're saving money on the commission end of things, right? So it's entirely up to you, and that's something that you need to look at and see what is most beneficial for you. Now, in my experience today, 80% of the agents that I work with pay for the staging for the client, on behalf of the client, whereas the other 20% is typically the homeowners contacting us directly and then paying for the staging on their own. All right. So, but you do have choices. So if your agent right now is not paying for the staging, then you need to decide if how important that is for you, versus whether you have the funds to front the staging on your own, and then renegotiate the commission. All right. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that homeowners make when it comes to staging? Well, I think I've mentioned this earlier, is that they think that They use their own personal style and taste in the staging as opposed to looking at it from the buyer's perspective. That is a pretty big mistake because they're not putting themselves in the buyer's shoes. And when you're selling, you have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes so that you're thinking about, when the buyers walk through the door, what are they looking at? What are they seeing? How are the rooms flowing from one to the next, right? So always think, when you're buying anything, you are buying a box of cereal, you're being marketed to, all the key features that they list on the box of cereal is to entice you because it's important to you. Some of us are looking for low sugar. Some of us are looking for high protein cereal. Some of us are looking for, things like gluten-free, for instance, right? So all of those copy or packaging and the colors and the photos that are on the cereal boxes is all meant to entice us as the buyers. The same is for a home, all right? So that's one of the key mistakes. The other mistake that people make when it comes to considering staging is that they don't think they need it. This is big for, I would say, boomers and zoomers, because they will tell me, back in my days, we didn't have to do this. When we sell a house, we just put the house up and then we wait for it to sell. Well, that was 30 years ago or 40 years ago or even 25 years ago, right? Times have changed. HGTV has really changed the way that we look at homes today. All right. We want the magazine worthy stuff. We want the television worthy stuff. We want pretty things, right? And we want things to be easy. All right. And so when you say that, oh, listen, I don't really need to do anything. I'm not in a rush. If it sells, great. If it doesn't, great. But that is a mistake, because if you're not really serious about selling, why are you putting the house on the market? Don't put the house on the market if you're not serious. But if you are serious about selling, then make sure that you are looking at it from the buyer's perspective and do whatever you need to do. Follow the professional advice of your stager and your real estate agent so that you can achieve the greatest success possible. All right. Okay. So the last question, I saved this one because, again, I didn't answer it following the previous question, but I saved this one because we are currently in this market right now. Does staging help in a buyer's market? And I feel like I'm repeating myself right now a little bit because I am, but staging absolutely can help in a buyer's market. Again, you just have to continue to do the same things that you've always done, meaning follow the advice of this professional stager, follow the advice of your real estate agent, do the prep work, invest in the staging, right? Because if you are serious and in need of selling in a buyer's market, staging will help you sell more quickly. All right. While we all want the goal to be top dollar, but maybe at this time, because you do need to sell for whatever reason, speed might be more important for you at this point in time. And in a buyer's market, it's all about standing out from the crowd and standing above the competition. Because in a buyer's market, the situation is that there's a lot of inventory. And today, today, the average around Southern Ontario, there's about 5 months of inventory. And what they say is that in a balanced market, there should be about 3 months of inventory. So right now we have on average 5 months of inventory. Some areas have 10 months of inventory and even as high as over 11, almost 12 months of inventory. So things are not moving. There's a lot of inventory on the market. There's a lot of homes to be seen, and there's a lot of choices for buyers. So the more you do to stand out from the crowd, the better your sales is going to perform, right? It's going to help you to sell more quickly and hopefully help you to achieve that dollar that you're seeking as well. Okay. So I hope that this episode helped you if you've always wondered about these questions and wanted to find the real answers and honest answers. And I hope that I've done just that for you. Now, if you have any other questions that I haven't already answered, then please feel free to reach out to me. All right. You can book a free 15-minute call consultation with me, or you can just reply or message me through this platform, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you still may have that I haven't already covered. Okay. I want this podcast and this episode to be informative for you so that you can make the right decision for yourself, all right? And not be stuck in the not knowing and then wondering if you're making the right choices or not, all right? So anyway, like I always say, if you take care of your home, it'll take care of you. And when it comes to selling your home, doing this is going to make all the difference in the world, okay? Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the House Therapy Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, be sure to follow the show and share it with someone who would love it too. For more tips, resources, or to work with me directly, visit isodesign.ca. Until next time, remember, with a little effort, every home can be beautiful and every space can be functional. And remember, you deserve it.